Hey, shalom, shalom, Israel. We're back with part 3 of counting to Shabuot, or the Feast of Weeks. We are going to be looking at verses 12 through 14, the harvest in the land. I may back up to actually verse 9 and give a little bit of context. It says this: And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, When you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest waves it. And on that day when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, an ascending offering to Yahuwah, and its grain offerings, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offerings, 1/4 of a hin of wine. And you do not eat the bread, nor the roasted grain, nor the fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to your Elohim, a law forever throughout your generation and all your dwellings. This is a really powerful portion of Scripture, because it tells us that before we do anything, we need to give Yah our first fruits. It's basically putting Yah first. The Shema, Hear Israel, Yahuwah our Elohim, Yahuwah is Akkad. This Akkad could be a unified one, but also it could be first and foremost, that He is number one. And really, when it comes to our first fruits, when they were going to the land, they were supposed to acknowledge the one who, provides all these things. It's an important principle even for us today. And when we look at this, when it was actually fulfilled, there is one place that's a perfect match to the scriptures we just read. It's found in the book of Joshua, chapter 5, verses 10 through 12. And I'm just going to read it, then we can talk about it a little bit. And the children of Israel camped in Gilgal and performed the Passover on the 14th day of the month at evening on the desert plains of Jericho. And they ate of the stored grain of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened bread and roasted grain on this same day. And the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the stored grain of the land. And the children of Israel no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. Now, you may want to spend some time and really look at this, because this is really powerful, because it gives us an example of how they did it when they came into the land that matches up with the verses in Leviticus. And we can see that they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at evening. And this is, it's pretty straightforward. Then it tells us something very interesting. They ate of the stored grain of the land on the morrow after the Passover. Now, the morrow after the Passover is the 15th. It's the first day of unleavened bread. Unleavened bread and roasted grain on the same day. So the first day of unleavened bread is a high Sabbath, the one we talked about previously, that the Septuagint equated the first day to the Sabbath. Here's this day in the book of Joshua. But the key piece I want to point out is they ate of the stored grain. See, they weren't eating first fruits at this time. They were eating the stored grain. Then we keep reading on, and the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the stored grain. So they ate the stored grain on the 15th, but the manna ceased on the next day, which is the 16th, the morrow after the Sabbath. And this is really interesting, because what Yah was doing, He was ending one cycle of provision with the manna that they were getting every morning. And He was, the verses we read in Leviticus were coming to fruition, because we see that that they no longer had manna, but they ate of the food of the land of Canaan that year. So they were able to partake of the first fruits after the priest had offered that up. So this is a huge, again, a major proof text right in the scripture that points to the 16th day being the day, the morrow after the Sabbath, that they were able to partake of the first fruits. When we come back, we're going to be looking at verses 15 and 16 and the 7 perfect Sabbaths, and also the 50 days. Shalom.